What if I told you you don't need to turn your entire card front into a shaker to create something magical? Today I'm sharing a sweet little twist on a classic shaker card that you are gonna love. Well, I'm creating an adorable Easter window shaker card featuring the cutest little bunnies, but instead of making the whole panel a shaker like I usually do, I transformed just a small section of that card front into a beautiful window. Hello, crafty friends. I'm Revati, and welcome to my crafty space. I'll be combining some fun products by Simon's Stamp, starting with this absolutely adorable Bunny Bonanza stamp set from their latest Beautiful Moments release. Now, this set includes five of the sweetest little bunnies, each with their tiny Easter eggs, plus some absolutely heart melting sentiments that are perfect for spring and Easter card projects. There are coordinating die sets that are available to cut out not just these beautiful, adorable stamped bunnies, but also the stamped sentiments. To build my background, I'm pairing it with the Artful palette stencil and coordinating die set that was part of the Simon Stamp February card kit. Now, if you've watched my videos last month, you would probably see me playing around with this stencil quite a bit. I absolutely love it and just can't get enough of it. But today we'll be switching things up. We will be using one of the coordinating dies that are part of the set, and we will be cutting out a small little window and turning it into our perfect shaker element. It is such a fun and unexpected way to stretch your supplies and create something a little different. This stencil pack includes five different stencils, and what I really love is that each of the window openings is numbered. Those numbers actually coordinate with the numbers on the matching dies, and well, I'll show you exactly how that works in just a minute. Now, these stencils measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, which is the size of a standard A2 size card base. But for my project, I chose a white cardstock panel that is slightly smaller than the regular A2 size panel, so I get a nice layered look once everything is assembled. Now, here's a look at how beautifully this stencil fits on my panel. Off camera, I went ahead and stamped and die cut images to save a little time. You will see I have two die cut bunnies that'll sit on top of the window openings, and for the bunny that's going inside the shaker window, I stamped that one separately onto a small piece of white cardstock so that it can sit nicely behind the acetate. I stamped all of these images using VersaFine Onyx black ink and then heat set them with clear embossing powder. That little bit of embossing really helps the lines stay crisp and makes coloring so much more easier. Like I mentioned earlier, the numbers on each of those stencil openings coordinate perfectly with the numbers on the coordinating die set. Now, if you take a closer look at the dies themselves, you can actually see those tiny etched numbers, and that makes lining everything so much more easier. Now, each die is designed to fit exactly inside its matching window opening, so there's no guesswork involved. You don't have to worry about whether you're choosing the right shape or adjusting the placement. It's all been thought out for you. Once you match the numbers, the die nests beautifully inside that stenciled opening and gives you a perfectly cut window every single time. I really love thoughtful details like this because it makes the whole process so much more smoother and so much more enjoyable, especially when you're creating something interactive like a shaker card. I went ahead and taped my cardstock panel directly onto the stencil to keep everything nice and secure. Then I carefully placed the coordinating die right inside the matching numbered opening. Once I was happy with the placement, I secured the die with a little bit of washi tape to prevent it from shifting. From there, I ran the entire sandwich, which is the cardstock, stencil, and the die, straight through my die cutting machine. And the best part, you don't have to remove the stencil at all. You can leave it exactly as it is on your panel and send everything through the die cutting machine together. It cuts beautifully and keeps everything perfectly aligned. Now that our window is cut and ready, let's move on to adding some color to the panel. I'm going to remove that little die cut piece along with the die itself, but I'll keep the main panel taped to the stencil. That way everything stays in place while we do our ink blending. We'll be inking up each of those window openings using some absolutely gorgeous green and teal shades. I am almost treating each opening like its own tiny scene, building in a soft blue sky effect towards the top and fresh green tones towards the bottom to mimic grass. It's like creating mini spring landscapes inside every window, one at a time. Before I started ink blending, I went ahead and masked off the surrounding openings. I really wanted to make sure that my colors stayed contained within the window that I was working on and didn't accidentally blend into the other open areas of the stencil. Now, masking is such a simple step, but it makes a huge difference in keeping everything clean and crisp. I like to use small post it notes for this kind of masking because they are lightweight, easy to reposition, and they give just enough hold without tearing the paper when you try to remove them. It's a quick little trick, but it really helps keep each window looking neat and perfectly defined as we build up our soft sky and grassy blends. Now we need to bring those same beautiful blues and greens onto the smaller white cardstock panel as well. The one with our stamped bunny and the Easter egg that'll sit inside the shaker window. But since I'll be coloring the bunny in a soft, light gray tone, I definitely don't want any of that ink blending to overlap onto the image, so I created a quick little mask using again post-it note. I simply stamped the bunny image onto the sticky portion of the post-it note, then fussy cut it very closely along the stamped lines. Cutting right along the outline helps prevent any halos when you start blending. Once that mask was ready, I placed it directly over my stamped bunny, making sure everything lined up perfectly. With the bunny protected, I went ahead and ink blended the same blue sky and green grass shapes onto the panel as well. This way, when we place it behind the shaker window, the scene will look seamless, almost like one continuous little spring landscape. Peeling off that post it mask is honestly one of the most satisfying parts of the whole process. There's just something so magical about revealing those crisp, clean edges around the bunny. I absolutely love how the ink blending softly frames the image without touching it. The sky, grass create that beautiful little backdrop for the bunny and makes it really pop in the center. And well, you'll see how perfectly everything lines up once we place it behind that open window. Now we can move on to one of my favorite parts of this project, which is coloring in these cute little bunnies. I decided to keep the coloring very soft and minimal. For the bunnies, I used light gray tones to give them gentle, natural look. And for the Easter eggs, I chose some beautiful pinks, blues, and yellows, but kept everything in lighter pastel shades. I really wanted that soft springtime feel, nothing too bold or overpowering. As always, I'm using my Ohuhu alcohol markers for coloring. They blend beautifully and make the process so smooth. But you could absolutely use colored pencils or even watercolors for these little images. They would look adorable no matter which medium you prefer. And before we start assembling our shaker window, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What's your favorite coloring medium? Are you team alcohol markers, color pencils, watercolors, or maybe something else? Let me know in the comments below. Now that all of our little stamped images are colored, it's time to move on to the sentiments, and this comes before we add our acetate window. Now, I decided to stamp two sentiments into the two remaining empty boxes on the panel. I carefully placed the panel onto my stamp wheel platform to make sure everything lines up perfectly and nothing shifts around while we stamp the sentiment. In one of the boxes, I stamped the sentiment that says Happy Easter, and in the other, I added Hope your Easter is filled with fun. These sweet little phrases really complete the scene and add that extra touch of charm before we assemble our shaker window. To create our shaker window, I started by cutting a piece of acetate just slightly larger than our die cut opening. I added some strips of double-sided tape to secure the acetate in place and then added a layer of foam tape around the edges. This foam tape creates a little well that gives the shaker bits room to move freely inside the window. Normally, I'd add shaker bits first and then place the backdrop on top, but this time I wanted to make sure that our colored bunny lined up perfectly with the rest of the card elements, so I decided to switch up the order a bit. I used some of the pastel tone confetti sequins by Simon's Stamp and carefully placed them right in the center of our stamped image. Then, before adding our shaker window onto this panel, I rubbed some anti-static powder along the edges of the foam tape to prevent the sequences from sticking where we don't want them to. Finally, I removed the backing from the foam tape and adhered this panel directly onto our ink blended and colored cardstock piece. This way, everything lines up perfectly and our shaker window is ready to move and sparkle just like we want. I made sure to press down the shaker window firmly so that there are no gaps and none of those little shaker bits can escape. Now that our front panel is almost complete, all that's left is to assemble everything onto a card base. I added some foam tape around the rest of the panel for dimension and a little pieces of double-sided tape on the back of our ink blended panel to make sure everything sticks securely. Then I adhered this entire assembly onto a white top folding A2 size card base. After that was done, I finally used some liquid glue to attach our little bunnies onto each of the window openings. I made sure they slightly overlap both the white part of the card front and the colored window portion. This little detail really helps everything come together and creates a beautiful, cohesive visual appearance across the entire design. It also adds so much depth and charm to the finished card. And there you have it. Our adorable Easter window shaker card is complete. I absolutely love how the little bunnies peek out of their window and how the soft ink blended backgrounds and the pastel shaker bits come together to create a playful springtime scene. This was such a fun way to take a classic shaker card and give it a fresh twist by focusing on just a small window rather than the entire panel. I hope this inspires you to try something similar with your stamps, dies, and stencils. There's so much room to get creative. Now, if you enjoyed this project, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment letting me know which part was your favorite. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any of the fun card making ideas I have coming up next. I will be sure to link all the supplies that I used to create this card down in the description box below. Please know that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.